believe visitors start with a joke. Long day.
Good evening and welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting of January 30th, 2013. We have a small agenda this evening, and the first agenda item is Town Energy Coordinator, Erica Nagy-Lert, and she's going to provide us an overview of the last year in activity and what you look forward to in 2013. Erica, thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
I'll give you the floor at this time.
Thank you. This year has been a really exciting year because we've made a lot of outreach efforts. There is a real population in Dover that is in need of financial assistance, both for energy and for other kind of support. It's a hard population to reach, so we have been actively going out, trying to address the concerns and trying to find the individuals in need. What we did primarily was devise a flyer that was distributed throughout the town. The flyer was posted in the town hall, it was posted in the post office, Dover Market, the Carroll Community Center. It was given to the library for distribution, to the police station, to the Council on Aging, and the flyer talked about the various forms of energy and other assistance that are available. Energy assistance in the form of oil subsidies, gas, and wood subsidies are available through the SMOC program through the state. That's an income-based program. For people who don't qualify for that, there is Salvation Army, and Salvation Army provides wonderful emergency support to people in need. It's an underutilized service, so we're really hoping that people will recognize that this is available. And then finally, for people who are facing emergency situations, there's an emergency energy fund sponsored by the town that is to be used when people are facing shutoffs, when they just don't have any energy. So if people will contact me as energy coordinator, we can make arrangements for those emergency situations. Otherwise, the SMOC program is eligibility based, so there are forms that are sent out. People will fill out the forms and then return them to the state. They'll have an intake interview with me and then I return them to the state. And we are hoping that with the situation financially that people are facing, that they'll know about these services and that they can then access them. So the way to reach me as energy coordinator is to either contact the Selectmen's office, contact the town hall. There is information on the website about how to reach me. I have information on the website and people can contact me there. My phone number and email have also been distributed throughout town, and hopefully people can find their way to these resources, which really are significant when people are in an emergency situation.
Does the Salvation Army have a formal needs evaluation process, or do they sort of just assume?
The SMOC program is highly structured and really looking for people in really serious need. Salvation Army is much more event-based, so if people don't have funds, but they need food on a one-time basis, even clothing, even furniture, prescriptions, eyeglasses, things of that sort, it's not highly needs-based, it's more event-based. It has been really wonderful this year how much support we've had from the community. The police, the Council on Aging published the flyer in their newsletter. They've been providing referrals to us as needed. You know, the whole town has been very supportive of this outreach effort.
And I understand that you're also going out to the churches in the community as well?
Yes, there are a consortium of churches that are meeting. We're going to be addressing the churches. We're going to be taking our message out to the churches, and hopefully they're often on the front lines with individuals who are really facing the most drastic situations, and hopefully they will be able to reach people. We also did an email blast through Chickering through the month of December, hoping that that would be another way to get the word out.
With privacy laws and personal information very important to everyone, do you have some sort of tracking system, who uses, whether it's SMOC or Salvation Army or the town of Dover's emergency funds?
Yes. SMOC has a tracking system. Salvation Army also does. The confidentiality issue is central to this whole process. There is no sharing of information. Any requests that come to me are entirely confidential. They're shared only with the agencies providing the services. So it is something that we focused on a lot, making sure that people feel that if they have concerns, even if they're just asking for information, that those concerns will be held completely confidential.
Good, thank you.
Do you think we're meeting the need?
I actually don't. I think that there is a need out there. I think that need is not being met because the information is still not reaching the people who need it the most. So that's my focus. My focus is to get the information out to those people who may not be reading the paper, may not be seeing the notices, but somehow need to get that. And in that regard, we've been talking about doing a mass mailing to all the residents of Dover in the fall, and I'm really optimistic that that will be a really good way to get the information for the coming year.
For the upcoming heating
For the upcoming heating season, yeah.
In towns of similar demographics as Dover,
Yeah.
around the state, do you happen to know what the distribution of need is relative to age group? Is it mostly seniors, or is it middle-aged folks who have lost their job? I mean, is there any generalization that can be made?
I can't address that with any great insight, but I can tell you that my understanding is it depends a lot on the community. So some communities it will be more family-based, a lot family-based. Other communities will be older populations.
Because I would imagine with the COA newsletter, talking about seniors, between the COA newsletter, all the events that they hold, people that come into their office, the fact that we have an outreach worker who takes his job very seriously, that we should be able to reach those seniors, at least, within Dover.
I agree. They do a wonderful job reaching out to the seniors. It's the people who they may not be in contact with, who are not of that demographic, that I'm really focused on. The families with young kids, the veterans, the other folks that may not be among their folks.
That's interesting.
Well, I'm sorry.
Okay. No, my thought on the town website is you did say there's a link, but has it been utilized as a front page article? I just don't recall it, that's all.
There's an announcement on the front page, and then there's also a link.
Okay.
So apparently the announcement is going to be running through February on the front page. It's also going on cable TV.
I mean, we've talked a lot, both at the Board of Selectmen level and then in our individual liaison and voting memberships of different boards and committees, how difficult it is to reach the citizens of Dover. And there's no one vehicle, there's no two vehicles, there's probably no half dozen vehicles that are going to reach everybody. And it's a very difficult task, whether it's getting folks informed to be ready for, voting at a town meeting, or about various initiatives that committees are doing and getting involved with open hearings or open meetings or this kind of program. It's just a tough thing to do.
I'm hoping that if we do a really intensive outreach this year and then follow it up with the mass mailing, that will at least start to have an effect.
Do you expect the mass mailing to be independent or an insert into a tax bill, or have you gotten that far yet?
I think an insert into a tax bill would be really a good idea because it would associate this fuel assistance program with other programs that are available through the town.
I'll give it some thought. I'm thinking the COA Thanksgiving luncheon is a perfect day to give out flyers to this, for this type of thing. It's seasonal. Yep. You have a captive audience, so to speak.
Great turnout.
Right. So things like that, as I'm thinking as you speak, and when you think of veterans, you think of Memorial Day, well, it's Memorial Day weekend, that's probably not the appropriate time to hand them out. And so as my mind, the little squirrel in my mind here is running around thinking of when they can be distributed, so. But I think you do a tremendous job, and it's such an important facet of the town, how to use town resources and what the government provides.
Well, between the COA and whatever, communication channels they have with seniors, and Chickering School, and even the regional school system, whole different population, some overlap, and Dover Mothers Association and the churches, hopefully you do enough of those and you get, a high coverage rate. I mean, people have to pay attention to it as well, but at least you're getting out there.
And I think they need to see it a few times, because although this has been around for a long time, it's been less visible, so see it a few times for a few years, and I think that will help.
Well, an insert in the tax bill is something that can easily be done at really almost no expense every year in the fall, for instance.
Right.
Right, that's a good point. A very efficient way to distribute it, too. Well, very
I
good.
think the one thing is we try to encourage people, don't be reluctant. If you have a need, speak to somebody.
Exactly.
There's no shame on it. We're here to help everyone.
It's an excellent point, John.
And it's confidential.
And the confidence, that's
Yeah.
key.
Well, that's good.
Congratulations on your work.
Erica, thank you. Carol, do you have any further questions?
I don't, I just want to say, thanks for the initiatives that you did this fall with the website and for coming in here to talk about it. And if you need any support from the board in the future, just let us know.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thanks for your
Thank you
efforts.
very much, Erica.
Good night.
Our next agenda item is to once again review the list of current warrant articles. As you recall, the warrant closed on January 18th, thank you. And at that time, in our last meeting, we briefly went over the articles, really focusing on the special warrant articles. And I don't believe, other than one particular special article, we have no additional information to talk about this evening. Okay? The one piece that we have, let me pull it out, is Special Warrant Article 13. And it's a citizen's petition. Carol, would you like to speak to that, and explain what that is?
Well, I will read the citizens petition, which was submitted by the 18th with 38 certified signatures. I think a citizen's petition needs, what, 10? 10. So more than enough, and it was certified by the town clerk on the 17th. It says, to see if the town will vote to require, prior to commencement of any project on town-owned property, for which half or less of the cost, including the value of any in-kind donations, is to come from town appropriations. Submission of proper plans, specifications, and estimates of the probable expense to the Board of Selectmen for review, and town meeting approval of any of said projects projected by the Board of Selectmen to cost in excess of $50,000, including the value of any in-kind donations. So I think this says, when they say for which half or less of the cost is coming from town appropriations, that also means zero, right?
Good math, Mrs. Lisbon.
Less than or equal to, right? So, it sort of takes a while to understand this when you get all the legalese type work on it. And it's the first time I've seen the actual writing of it. The only thing I really know about it is that this is a citizen's petition that has been placed before the town because of the frustration of a group of citizens with the Sea Park project, and how if it is using just philanthropic sources for the expenses associated with development of Sea Park, that there is no opportunity for the town citizens to take a vote on it. And I think this is a direct result of that. And that's all I know.
Well, on the surface, I support the citizen petition in trying to make changes to the town that are good for the town. But again, on the surface, this is very wide-ranging, far-reaching. And so you basically stop everything going on town-owned land that's going to cost more than $50,000 until the town votes at it at town meeting. So if it was an emergency repair such as the oil tank at the Carroll Community Center, we could not do that and not provide heating to the Carroll Community Center until town meeting voted it?
Arguably, that's correct.
Well, that's just one example that's just not acceptable.
And would capital budget items under Article 5 be sufficient as having town meeting vote versus does this require that it be a separate article?
Arguably, no. Arguably, the fact that the town meeting voted under Article 5 to approve a project, that would suffice as approval under this proposed bylaw.
Every time you say arguably, I think lawyers and legal fees.
Well, there's a lot of state statutes that also govern the jurisdiction of various types of land in a community. Most notably, for example, the Cemetery Commission under state law has, according to our council, pretty absolute control over cemetery property. And it's a wide open question. There are no cases. Could somebody argue that, for example, a water feature at the cemetery, does it have to get town meeting approval? My understanding from council, from the research that he's done of that statute governing cemeteries, is he thinks probably not, that the cemetery state law gives them jurisdiction that this can't take away.
So state law in this case would trump local law.
It always does, but depending upon the language of
Sure.
the law, it allows for some more wiggle room. As you move down the food chain, curiously, the school statute says unless otherwise directed by the town, the school committee shall have the control over a property. So arguably, because there are no cases, this would otherwise direct the school committee to that, oh, if you want to do something on land that you control, whereas before this you could do it, now you have to seek specific town meeting approval to do it.
So the recent, this may not apply because it's the region, but the recent upgrade of the, through the boosters' efforts at
Yeah.
the region for the sports, for the artificial turf field.
That's on Dover land, so I think it
So
applies.
that's Dover land, but it's regional school. Would that have required town meeting vote?
If it were local property, town property, yes. I'm not sure that the region hasn't in fact been conveyed the use or the actual title to that property. But if it were the Chickering, for example, clearly local property, one could argue, but again, is swapping out a turf field, a natural turf field with an artificial turf field, is that substantive enough? Who knows? What we do know is that this language would open a door to argue things that doesn't exist now.
I'll give you another example. Ripping up Dedham Street for whatever reason, Walpole Street for whatever reason, for 200 feet. It's going to cost $100,000. Do we need that at town meeting approval to, for whatever reason, there's a major repair to one of the arteries?
Arguably, yes.
Well, this is just too far reaching.
So let me give you another one. At Chickering School, let's say they raised funds, which actually probably would fall under A, because it's private funds, right? So let's say they raised funds for $50,000 to put in a new playground. Would that require town meeting approval?
Arguably, yes, because it could be deemed to constitute a substantial change to the aesthetics.
Well, I can appreciate the petitioner's thought process in trying to stop one particular project, but this is too far-reaching, given that arguably, yes, on every single answer, our legal costs would go through the roof.
Potentially, yes.
So it basically means that any individual in town who has an objection to any project costing someone, whether it's in-kind donations, philanthropy, dollars, or whatever, more than $50,000, could try to stop it this way. I think I've suddenly decided that I'd love to be the town attorney and
Absolutely.
town council.
Yeah, it's,
We're going to have to increase the legal budget if, in fact, this goes through.
It's just getting passed by the town council.
if town council has reviewed it, and that's where I get my information, Mr. Melican, about the competing jurisdictions. Because it's a citizen's petition, however, nobody has the right to deny them a warrant article if it's duly certified, which it was. Our concerns, council's concerns were shared with the pro bono attorney for this group, and presumably they decided to proceed anyway.
Okay, so this will be, as Carol read it, will be the warrant article.
Yes.
Okay.
The motion may be slightly different, but the meaning will be the same.
Excuse me, will we be getting a written opinion from our town council?
We certainly could. Again, it won't say, it'll say what I've said. There are no cases, so it's not dispositive, but it will address the fact that there are state statutes that govern, and based on the language of those statutes, again, on a continuum, certain boards and commissions seem to have more compelling exclusive control over their property than others.
Schools and cemetery being the two.
Actually, schools being, on the continuum, being the
Least?
the least, not least, but less likely
Uh-huh.
to be able to argue that they don't come under this jurisdiction because the statute says unless otherwise
Oh,
directed
okay.
by the town.
Cemetery?
Cemetery is clearly on the far side of strong.
Yeah.
Park and Rec is next, because again, the state law about parks.
So the irony.
Clearly comes under the control.
So this is-
And this was all explained by our attorney to their attorney, so
Yeah.
this wouldn't be new.
So
And
in
then
your-
Concom is a little bit in a grayer area, but still there's an implication in their statute that they control, as they have practically done, their plans.
So in an effort to stop the Sea Park development, the citizens petition has just thrown a net over everything. And
Cast a cloud, potentially.
it's,
It always bothers me when I hear that there's no case law yet, because the expense of creating case law then falls to the town of Dover. And the irony is that the citizens of Dover who might be against the project that engendered this in the first place will end up paying through their taxes to defend something that they don't want.
And and specific to the Park and Rec project, our council has advised that that's one of those stronger statutes.
Right.
So less likely to be successful with regards to this line.
if we can get town council to have a write-up so we have a copy and I can send that down to the warrant committee so they get their hands around the implications, something like this, I think it'd be very important.
Road of good intentions is paved
Yeah.
with.
Okay, Joe, do you have any further thoughts
No,
on
I
this?
just wondering if any other towns or cities have this type of bylaw.
I do not know that.
We're not aware that other towns have tried to do anything this way. Very typically, governance-type things, of which this is one, tend to show up more in organized charter provisions than in a bylaw that just sort of seeks to overlap everybody else's jurisdiction. The fact that there's no cases on this suggests that there are none done this way.
Well, what's interesting, this would have to, if it was approved at town meeting, would have to go to the Attorney General for approval, correct? It's a shame that you can't sort of ask for advice prior to, and just pass this in front of them for a sniff test, so to speak. That's a shame. Save everyone a lot of time and money.
Depending upon what the AG would say, I mean,
Well,
because there are no cases, their opinion would probably be no different than our town council's. And the fact is that notwithstanding that opinion, the citizens have a right to file it.
Yes.
So, assuming the AG agreed with our council, citizens presumed they went forward anyway, probably figuring something's better than nothing, let's take a shot. I don't know.
Yeah, I recognize the citizens' right to petition and create a special warrant article, but I do not agree with the far-reaching attempt of this particular petition.
Well, and I certainly appreciate their frustration,
Yes.
which is the reason for this citizens petition, which I guess brings us down to Article 18, the placeholder,
Yes.
which is currently a placeholder from Park and Rec for a Sea Park, for the Carroll Park project. Do we have any idea what they might be asking, if any?
The only thing I know is, in general conversation, that I know of, that they'll vote on this Friday morning, whether to continue with the get language immediately up here, or take the placeholder out of it. So Friday morning, hopefully we'll have some knowledge of that one.
Or perhaps their knowledge of this might impact their activity and decisions.
Right. Right, okay. Okay, that'll be interesting. That will be interesting. Aside from that particular special warrant article, which is number 13 on our list, and number 18 with the Park and Recreation Commission's placeholder, which we'll hopefully find out whether it's going to continue or not this week, there are no no more additional information that I know of. I don't know if anybody can speak to any other special warrant articles?
At this point.
Okay. Let us go on to the next agenda item, which is reviewing the ambulance rates. And if I recall correctly, we had that on our agenda last meeting, but we had a question on that, and who's going to speak in that one?
I will, Mr. Chairman.
Good, thanks, Dave.
At the last meeting, the request was made to convert from an à la carte menu of ambulance fees to a bundled rate. And the question was asked, can you explain this better? And at the time, my answer was, no, I can't. So in your packet, this time is a pamphlet from our ambulance billing service explaining their anticipation that the health industry billing standard is moving from the à la carte. You get your basic transport, then if you need oxygen, et cetera, they ladder it on, to a bundled one rate includes everything. It's an inclusive rate. In part being precipitated by the federal health care law, but also I understand from Jerry that some of our health plans now, Blue Cross most notably, has a plan where it's a bundled rate. And the hope is, in the big policy context, that by having a single rate, somehow this will help to control the cost of the service and therefore the cost of the insurance. The ComStar has put together a suggested bundled rate for us based on our previous à la carte menu, which is designed to be revenue neutral. So we should get from the single rate what we were getting for the, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 separate fees that were structured under the unbundled rate.
Great. I see that to transition to the bundle rates from the present à la carte rate system is the industry best practice recommendation. It's not mandated.
No.
Okay.
Well, it's not like what's happening at hospitals, for instance, despite the bill that you get when you're an inpatient that's 3 or 4 pages long and shows every aspirin. If you went in for a appendectomy, the hospital gets reimbursed a rate, period, whether you're there for 2 days or 3 days. So it's the same type of thing. It's a bundled, single rate type thing. The values that are on the back side of the ComStar flyer are different than the ones that we're recommending for Dover. Is that because that's the Boston area versus the Dover area?
Spot downstairs.
The bundled rate on the Comstar pamphlet is an example,
Oh, just, okay.
and this is the actual Dover ambulance rates
Okay.
based on Dover's particular
Got it.
circumstances.
Thank you for that clarification.
Yes. Do we have to vote on this, Dave?
Yes, you do, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I move we approve the ambulance rates for calendar year 2013 per the submission on the January 17th memo from our treasurer collector Gerald Lane.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Do we have to sign anything, Greer, this evening, or not? All of us, or just? Thanks, Joe. Next agenda item is execute a local 1116 memorandum of agreement. Who is going to speak to this?
Mr.
Dave?
Chairman, several months ago, we discovered that we had made an error in benefits administration with respect to the vacation accrual for one of our union employees. We missed the fact that he had exceeded his longevity date to be eligible for another week of vacation, and we did this for 2 years in a row. As a result, we effectively shortchanged him what he's entitled to under contract, a week in each year. Historically, and I'm happy to say our mistakes are rare, but they do occur, we have made right whether it's in the employee's favor or the town's favor, and we've made mistakes both ways. So this memorandum, because it constitutes a change in the contract to allow him to have an extra week in 2 years, requires the Board of Selectmen's approval.
Okay, I can understand that. And obviously, the union is in agreement with that, backing their union employee. And the town, it consistently applies the decisions where these things happened in the past, so this is continuation?
Yes, and in fact, you may recall, we had a case with vacation that worked the other way. An employee used vacation he was not entitled to, and we recovered that. And this is great experience to use with the unions when we're talking about mistakes that go the other way. Hey, look, remember the time we made the mistake against the employee, we made it good. Now we're making it in his favor, they've got to make it good with us. So it's a real fair and equitable relationship with the union.
So we're just spreading it over 2 years.
Yes. So it's not unduly burdensome to him to take it and not unduly burdensome to us to have to let him go for an extra 2 weeks.
Good.
Okay.
Okay. Joe, do you have any questions about
No,
this?
this is just an oversight.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion on this memorandum of agreement.
I move we approve the memorandum of agreement between the town of Dover and the Laborers International Union Local 1116.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. I'll need 3 copies. One for the union, one for the employee, one for the town.
Sounds like a song.
You got another talent I didn't know
Oh,
you had,
okay.
Carol. You're snapping right there.
Snappy?
Okay, our next agenda item is to discuss legislative bill relative to the school district capital project funding. Now, this particular discussion was brought forth by our Dover representative to the Minuteman School, Ford Spalding. And the Minuteman administration is taking the task to contact representatives and senators about a bill. And the legislation, and I'll read from the email, this legislation would add to the Massachusetts School Building Authority reimbursement for regional school districts, which the Minuteman is one of. And specifically, an additional 10% reimbursement rate shall be added to a total facilities grant for academic regional school districts, and an additional 20% reimbursement rate shall be added to the total facilities grant for a regional vocational technical school district. So what Ford and the administration from Minuteman is asking us is that we write state representative, and Senator Timothy, did you get that right? Yes. Supporting this proposed legislation. On the surface, it makes all the sense in the world, and I support it. Joe, do you have any questions of this? Carol, do you have any questions?
No, I was on that subcommittee where we tried to work together as 16 towns to find a way to change the regional agreement to lessen an unfair burden on those communities like Dover that send less than 5 students a year. And of course, it's a zero-sum game, so every time there was a recommendation that would help out the small towns like Dover and Acton and so forth, it was a negative impact on the larger towns like Belmont and Arlington. So I know Ford and the Minuteman board has been working very, very studiously to try to figure out how to move the Minuteman Vote Tech School forward when it requires approval of 16 towns. So this would certainly help the process by increasing the state reimbursement. So I fully support it.
Good. I do too. Joe, do you support this?
Yeah.
Action? Now, given that I think the bill is going to be voted on February 1st, perhaps?
It's Friday.
So logistically,
A phone call to both offices would be sufficient.
okay, so you follow up with that, please? Thank you. And please advance our total support for this. And thank you, Ford, for bringing that to our attention. Okay, next on the agenda item is appointing town council. Dave, I believe this is you also?
I was reminded by the board 2 or 3 meetings ago that we had not yet reappointed town council. That's an oversight on my part. I spoke with Bill Leahy, our town council, and he'd be delighted to re-up for the year ending June 30th, 2013.
Yeah, now that he knows that one of the warrant articles.
Take me.
Okay, let me just, town council, okay, that's been approved.
Well, Bill has been a wonderful town council for years for Dover, and I think we've all enjoyed working with him. He's always given us good support.
So technically, it would be the law firm Anderson Krieger?
I believe it's Bill Leahy, isn't it?
I'm looking at the spreadsheet.
Do both Bill Leahy at Anderson Krieger.
Okay. So that is for a 1-year appointment. And Carol, if you'll make them.
It's my pleasure to nominate Bill Leahy and Anderson and Krieger as our town council individually and as a firm.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And firm. Okay. And Greer, if we can get an updated appointment elected, I think other than council aging, that wrapped up a lot of it.
I think we might have one, it's either the recycling committee,
Recycling?
maybe, haven't looked at it in a while. And maybe some,
You had one person resign that
Right.
was open. Okay.
yeah, okay.
And then, thank you very much for that. Next agenda item, as we scoot along here, is to approve the January 2nd, 2013 meeting minutes. This particular meeting was the COA coming in, talking about a special warrant article for a standalone facility. A couple other things, the medical marijuana law that was voted in last November 2012, and the Meadows snow plowing request. I see all my edits were included, so thank you for that.
So I move that we approve the minutes of January 2nd, 2013.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. On to citizens' comments. And Carol, if you have any comments, please.
I'd like to announce, and I believe, and I apologize, I don't have the specific dates with me, but I believe they're going to be on the website within the next couple of days. The Rail Trail Committee had held a series of open meetings for citizens, abutters, whoever wanted to attend, just to get input to the committee back in the fall. And the committee is doing it again in February. I think it's maybe February 9th, 10th, and 11th. One's in the morning, one's early in the morning, one's late in the morning, and one is in the evening, I think, just in case, to make it easier for folks that have different schedules. But it'll be on the Rail Trail Committee website shortly, certainly way before February 9th, which is the first one. And I urge anybody who still hasn't had the opportunity to express some thoughts and share concerns to come to one of those meetings, or just to go to the website and contact the chair, Kate Caney, through the contact information on the committee's website to make sure that you're heard. Thank you.
Thank you. Joe, do you have any comments?
The only comment I have is that we've received notice from the MWRTA that Dover can now remember.
Oh, good, and that's in the whole getting a ban for the COA process. We had to be admitted as a member. That's good news, thank you. COA must be thrilled with that. My one comment is the Town Energy Coordinator did a nice presentation this evening, and to Joe's point, you shouldn't, if there is a need, the availability emergency assistance funds are out there. In a very private way, you can get that done, so please never hesitate to reach out.
You know, I might add that Erica is an attorney, as her profession. She certainly appreciates and understands and practices confidentiality every day in her professional life. So if that's reassuring to folks, it's a point.
Good, that's an excellent point. With that said, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much and good night.